All right, we are going to talk about 11.9b. We're still solving radical equations. If you want to follow along in the textbook, it is on page 822 still. And really, this is day 2, if you will. It's your second video of these examples. And really, all I did was take what we learned in the previous video, and I came up with a bunch of examples and mixed them up, and so we'll talk about how to solve each of them. So this is day 2, same concepts as the previous videos. All right, so our first example that we have right here, we have 9 equals the square root of 27x. All right, like we talked about yesterday with this square root symbol right here, the opposite of the square root of something is to square it. So I need to get rid of that. So I'm going to square it. What you do to one side, you must do to the other side. All right, so I have 81 is equal to, I have the square root that canceled with the squared, so now I have 27x. Okay? All right, we're going to divide both sides by 27 to get that x by itself, and you have x equals 3. Yesterday, we really talked about checking our answers. So if I check my work on this guy, I would have 9 is supposed to equal the square root of 27 times 3. All right, so 27 times 3 is 81, and the square root of 81 is 9. So yes, they check. All right, example number 2. I am noticing my square root piece, this guy right here, is not by itself, and that's the first thing we need before we start squaring anything. So I'm going to go plus 2, because now I have the square root of x all by itself is equal to 3. I want to get rid of that square root symbol, so I'm going to square it. I'm going to square it. These guys cancel out. I'm left with x equals, and 3 squared is 9. All right, let's check this sucker out. We would have the square root of 9 minus 2 is supposed to give me 1. The square root of 9, well, that's 3. 3 minus 2, does that give me 1? Yes, it does. We're good to go. Example number 3. We have 3x plus 7. Oop, there's supposed to be a minus 1 right there, is equal to 3. So this is similar to the last example we just did. We need this piece by itself first before we can square everything. So that means I need to get rid of this minus 1. So I'm going to add 1. Add 1. That would give me the square root of 3x plus 7, all equals 4. All right, now we're ready to get rid of the square root sign. So I'm going to square it. I'm going to square it. That would give me 3x plus 7 equals 16. All right, basic algebra from here. Let's just solve for x. We minus 7. Minus 7. We get 3x equals 9. Divide by 3. Divide by 3. Looks like x equals 3. Again, you always want to be checking your work, even if it's in your calculator. So if I check this guy, I would have 3 times 3 plus 7 minus 1 is supposed to give me 3. 3 times 3 is 9. 9 plus 7, okay, that's 16 all underneath the square root sign. The square root of 16 is 4. So now this reads 4 minus 1 is 3. That's true. So it checks. All right, I like example 4 because it's pretty short and sweet. This square root of x is being divided by 4. So the opposite of dividing by 4, because again, I need the square root by itself. I need to multiply both sides by 4. These guys cancel each other out. That's why you do it. 4 times 2 is 8 is equal to the square root of x. Now I'm ready to get that square root gone. So I'm going to square. I get 8 squared is 64. Over here, these guys cancel, and I'm left with x. Again, just a quick check to make sure we're right. This is supposed to be 2 is equal to the square root of 64 divided by 4. Okay, well, the square root of 64 is 8. 8 divided by 4 is 2. All right, number 5. Ooh, this one's got a couple steps with it. So again, the first thing we need to do is get rid of that denominator and start getting that square root of x piece. Our goal is to get this guy by itself. So I'm going to get rid of the denominator by multiplying both sides by 5. Those guys are gone. I'm left with 2 square root of x is equal to 4 times 5 is 20. All right, I got to divide both sides by 2, so I don't have a coefficient anymore. And now I have the square root of x is equal to 10. And now I'm ready to get rid of that square root, so I'm going to square, x equals 100. Okay, I'm going to check off to the side real quick. 2 times the square root of 100 divided by 5 is supposed to equal 4. All right, I know the square root of 100 is 10. 2 times 10 is 20 on the top. 20 divided by 5 is 4, so it does check. All right. Ooh, these ones we talked about on our first video. Okay, we have a square root on both sides. So this is the easier of the two because you're trying to get rid of the square root. So you're going to square and you're going to square. Since you have a square root on both sides, all of them cancel out and you're just left with 3x plus 2 is equal to x plus 6. Now we just got to do some basic algebra, get x by itself and start solving. So now I'm at 2x plus 2 equals 6. Minus, I get 2x equals 4. Divide by 2. Looks like x equals 2. I definitely want to check this one to make sure I'm right. So I'll be putting these 2's right in here. So really that will read the square root of 3 times 2 plus 2 is supposed to equal the square root of 2 plus 6. All right, so this would give me 6. 6 plus 2 is 8, so I have the square root of 8 is equal to the square root of 8. Those two things are identical, so they do match. Last example that we have today. Okay, we have to get this guy right here onto the other side because you cannot have two square roots, this guy and this guy, on the same side when you're trying to get rid of those square root signs. So I'm going to go plus, because again, the opposite sign, the square root of 6. I'm going to add them over to the other side. So now I'm at the square root of 2x minus 5 is equal to the square root of 6. Now I'm at the same step I was on the previous problem. I'm ready to get rid of my square roots. So I'm going to square. This gives me 2x minus 5, because again, those cancel. On the other side, square root squared, those guys cancel. We get 6. All right, we are ready to go ahead and start solving this algebraically. So I am going to add 5 to both sides. Now I'm at 2x is equal to 11. Divide both sides by 2, divide both sides by 2. This gives me 5.5. All right, some of you might be like, ooh, am I right? Because I got a decimal. We haven't got very many decimals. Well, let's check our answer and make sure. Okay, so this would read 2 times 5.5 underneath here, minus 5, minus the square root of 6, and it's all supposed to equal 0. So I know that 2 times 5.5 is 11. 11 minus 5, well, that's 6. So I'm at the square root of 6 minus this square root of 6. Well, those are identical. So yeah, if I subtracted them, I would get 0. So it does check. We're good to go. Homework for this section, 11.9b. So second assignment of the week. You are still on page 826. Again, all odd answers here, so make sure you are checking your work in the back of the book. You can also check it on your calculator like we were doing off to the side. Big reminder, show all work. If there is no work, you will be receiving no credit.